And now we're going to talk about the transmission fluid level, how to read it. We're going to talk about the key player here, which is the transmission dipstick, as well as another important factor, which is running the transmission and getting it up to temperature. This one here is a 2006 Infiniti M45. And I believe the same setup applies for many other rear-wheel drive Nissan vehicles with a 5-speed automatic transmission, the RE5 R05A. With this car right here, the transmission dipstick is back there. And a lot of them have the same layout, really. As long as you have a transmission dipstick, check back there. So look here, go to the back of the engine, right there. And you'll see this plastic bung over here, or this rubber bung over here. This right here is your transmission dipstick. You're gonna need, as you can see here, you've got a 10 millimeter bolt over here. So you need to get yourself a tool that's gonna remove this bolt. Then you can pull this transmission dipstick out. Cool. So we're going to show what a typical reading looks like, as well as all the markings you expect to see on your stock dipstick and what those markings should mean to you. So with that being said, let's take a deeper look at the dipstick here. This is the business end of your transmission dipstick. There's this side over here, blank side, which is kind of important, by the way. And then you have the front side with all the etching and the cross hatching. So this side, basically this is how I'd summarize this thing. If you read your transmission dipstick before starting the car, your oil level is going to be way above max. That's a useless reading. Then the first real reading you should try is start your car, shift it through the gears, and at that point, you should be looking at this level right here. Between the two notches, that is your cold level. It is not labeled, and it is rather confusing because all you can see is hot written on this side. So read it from the back if you want to, but basically between the notches, that's your cold level. And then after you've started your car, run it through the gears, and actually driven it around town, then your transmission is going to come to a normal operating temperature. And at that point, this is actually the hot level. Right here, whatever you see under the cross hatching, this is the hot level. So hypothetically, if you had oil, transmission oil, that's way at the bottom right here, right on this notch, and that's minimum cold, after running it for a while, it's going to come up to the bottom of this cross hatching over there, right? Likewise, if your transmission fluid level was in between min and max, and you ran it for a while, they say about 5 minutes of in-city driving, then you expect that transmission fluid level to get to around there. All right, does that make sense? Well, I sure hope it does, because it does not get any less confusing. Let's do the work. First thing, 10 millimeter socket, or 10 millimeter socket, or you could use a wrench to get to it, whatever you have on hand, really. So move that. Here it is. At this point, I'm going to mention that reading transmission fluid levels with the dipstick while the engine is off does not do you much good, and I'll show you why. So check this out. Let's pull it up. It's got fluid all over for now. All right, so you've got two levels here, and I'll explain them in better detail a little later. But so wipe it clean as you can get it, right? The dirtier the oil is, the dirtier the fluid is, the easier it is to see, right? But you kind of get an idea. Let's stick it back in. Just make sure that this does not interfere with the flange it was bolted on. As deep down as you can go, then pull it up again. So look, oil is all the way to up here. That is with the engine off. And these readings don't make sense, don't really help us at all, right? So what I'm gonna do is stick it back in and then start the engine, and you'll see. So as the manual states, what I'll be doing here is just shifting through the gears to make sure the fluid circulates, and then we'll go check the dipstick again. I'll go ahead and pull it back out to make a reading on it. I'm making the best of the situation with the lighting and camera here, so I'm sorry if you cannot see it clearly. But all I'll be doing is pretty much trying to point at the midpoint, because based on that dipstick close-up we had, I am halfway between min and max. I am above min and below max, which is good. That at least tells me that I am not running dry. So we'll go ahead and just wipe it. I don't know why I do that. I mean, the transmission fluid should go back in there. Anyway, I'll stick it back in and go to the next part of the experiment. And now we're going to do a test drive. It is very important that you actually do a drive, because if you tried to just sit in one spot and rev your engine to warm up the temperature, when you try to check the fluid level, the transmission fluid level, it's still going to show up as cold. So drive it. All right, so I'm back home, and what we're going to do is shift through the gears again. Standard procedure. Park. And let's do it again. Reverse, neutral, drive, neutral, reverse, park. And there we have it. The wetness at this point is right here. Oh, it's gonna drip. Let me try it again. I didn't catch it in good time. You'll see that it's right around here. Turn it the other way. Somewhere in here. Somewhere within this hash marks is where it is now. Yeah, right here. It's almost at the very top is what I can see. So I'd say that's good. Remember, this is why I say it's important to read the dipstick with the engine hot and running. I guess I could have stopped here, but I wanted to do it a few more times. In reality, it is pretty hard, and, you know, I'm the kind of guy that's going to show you the reality to expect, so I did it, you know, in and out a few more times, trying to get the best reading. And the thing is, at some point, it gets really hard to read. So let's show you exactly what I was seeing here. Yeah, right around there is where I see. So yeah, we're fine. And honestly, Nissan dipsticks can be a little hard to read, especially when hot. But as I said, it's showing what I predicted would be seeing, right? Where when the engine is not running, it's all the way wild. With the engine cold, it's right where it's supposed to be. And then hot, it's right on those hash marks, okay? The cross hatching, that is. So we're gonna stick it back in and call it a day, because we are done. You could either install that or leave it, but I choose to install it back, so I like things being as close as possible to factory. I could show you all these tips and tricks, but the official word from Nissan or Infiniti from their manuals is that when it comes to transmission service, just take your car to the dealership. And I can't really fault them for that, because for one, it could be kind of difficult to read the transmission dipstick, especially while the engine is running and the transmission is warmed up enough. Two, it's rather cheap. It is about $300 if you have a full system flush. And if most of the time the dealers are pretty honest. So if all they're doing is just checking your level, they just charge you for labor. They don't really charge you for the material. And three, you might not even get a dipstick. Let me explain that. Check this out. Our demo model was a 2006 Infiniti M45, and the same system should be standard for 2006 through 2010 Infiniti M45. The 2009 M35 rear-wheel drive, whenever they went to the 7-speed transmission, they don't have dipsticks, so don't even bother. And so I'm not very familiar with the M35, so a lot of my information is biased on the V8. But so the M45 2006 and up is set up in that way where you have a bolt and you have to remove the bolt to get to the dipstick, right? Real secure or a nuisance, however you want to look at it. The 2003 and 2004 Infiniti M45 is set up the same way. The Infiniti FX45, I'm not sure. I'm not really familiar with those. The 2002 through 2006 Infiniti Q45 should be the same. At least the ones I've had are set up the same way. The JDM one, like I've mentioned in the past, does not get to be bolted down. So you have this simple, pretty standard dipstick you just pull up, right? Cool. And I lost flash. So you have a pretty simple dipstick that you pull up. And you have this, at best, you only have this hook over here that can, I guess, prevent you from just pulling it up, but it's pretty easy to operate, right? Which is nice. I always wondered why would they do that to the American models? I mean, why make it so difficult? I mean, for one, I suppose I understand that America is a very litigious society, so you want to cover your rear, right? You don't want people messing with your transmissions and end up ruining the transmissions, so that's why you just write in the manual that, hey, just go to the dealership, don't even deal with it, which makes sense, right? So here's a catch, though. All right, or a joke, however you want to look at it. I've seen reports that some of the 2002 through 2006 Q45s did not even have a dipstick. That is, you went your way and you unbolted it, but when you pulled it up like this, you got maybe 2 inches of metal. There wasn't even a full dipstick. So that's kind of cruel. I mean, but it kind of drives the point home that we don't want you messing with these. You have a handle here that all you have is a plug, really. And you've seen, well, I don't have the car in right here, but you've seen that it's really a plastic bung that looks like a plug, right? And a lot of people usually ask, where is the dipstick? Yes, they've made it very inconspicuous because in other cars it's maybe brown or whatever it is. Easy to see, right? So, you know, it's something I've always advised for these fluid containing systems, such as the differential or the transmission in this case, right? Before you drain it, make sure you've confirmed that you can fill it back up. So open the fill port, make sure you can actually add it in. So for that reason, I say for this one, it's pretty easy. You have a dipstick, you can pour oil in there, but I would recommend that before you go doing all that, actually pull the dipstick and make sure, you know, unbolt it. Make sure you actually have metal that goes all the way down and looks like what I showed in the beginning of the video, right? You've got something with cross-hatching marks over there, something that says hot level, you know. So that's my pointer. And the other thing is that should you really be disappointed, how often do you mess with your transmission fluid anyway, right? 60,000 miles, 30,000 if you're more diligent. Whatever it is, just let the dealer do it, you know. Transmission could be sensitive, and you've already seen it's kind of hard sometimes to read it. You know, it needs some tricks, and you really need to know what you're doing. So let the dealer deal with it. Let them take the risk. Let them just, you know, take the responsibility on it. For about $300, I'll let them do it. And they have their ways of doing it, of refilling transmission and making sure it's at the correct level. When it comes to the temperature dance, I know they use the consult tool. That's that computer, the Nissan computer that actually checks and makes sure it's at the right temperature. For level, I'm not quite sure if consult can tell you if you have the correct amount in there. I'm not really sure, but otherwise they should have a dipstick, right? If it's they're the dealership after all, and any respectable service base should have some kind of a dipstick to do the jobs that they need to do. And if there's a tech that actually knows how to do it, let us know. Let me know, you know, share in the comments how they actually do it. But then I've also heard in the past that the dipstick, the transmission fluid dipstick from the G35, FX35, FX45, all those other guys, all the other vehicles that are rear wheel drive and use the 5-speed transmission, I heard that they should use the same dipstick. I cannot corroborate that information. I've never really checked by part number, but it's something you should look into. Either way, whatever you got to do, whenever you get the car and you're looking to do your own maintenance, you know, beg, borrow, steal, make, whatever you got to do, make sure that you have a dipstick. It would be nice to have one. But again, it's just like the new cars without a dipstick for your engine oil. If you follow the manufacturer recommended service, you'll be able to get along anyway, you know, just fine. All right. So that's my tip for the end. Yeah, it is rather long, I know, but you'll be okay.